Protesters upset with recent developments in police-involved shootings took over the streets of downtown Tampa. They shut down intersections and at one point tried to stop the Christmas program at Curtis Hickson Park. News Channel 8's Peter Bernard is in the middle of all of it, and he was from the very beginning. Peter?
Good evening, Jen. This could have turned nasty fast. More than 100 people marched to the streets of downtown Tampa, and I mean through the streets. It stopped late rush hour traffic dead in its tracks. But the oddest scene of the night happened over where a Christmas program was going on.
How many of you kids are looking forward to Santa Claus?
In one of the most bizarre scenes I've ever witnessed, parents and their children lined up on blankets to listen to Christmas music at Curtis Hickson Park as fake snowflakes filled the air. But instead of enjoying the show, the protesters stood between the performers and the audience. Stunned parents and some unhappy kids shook their heads in disgust as the Christmas music got drowned out by loud slogans.
What they're doing, if it's a just cause, that's fine, but there's a time and a place for that. This is not it. All this is doing is ruining other people who came out here to have a good time.
But not everybody found the sudden change in programming so distasteful.
I feel for them. I know exactly how they feel, and they're not. It's friendly protest based on what has happened, and everybody has a right to protest, and I think they're doing the right thing.
The protesters are upset over the Ferguson situation, and more recently in New York, where an officer was not indicted after choking a man who later died.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. We can't breathe.
Even before the interrupted Christmas show, the evening started with a protest march down Kennedy Boulevard.
We have power. We have power.
Tampa police were here in force. The agency deployed groups of officers on bicycles and on horseback. They didn't use a heavy hand to keep things in control, and that includes when protesters blocked traffic at Kennedy and Ashley, leaving some drivers wondering how they got into this mess.
No peace. No justice.
The officers used extreme patience and tolerance as the protesters made their way to the Kennedy Bridge over the Hillsborough River. Using their bikes to corral people to one side of the street, they employed non-confrontational tactics, even putting officers in front of and behind the pack of protesters to ensure safety. The protesters don't like what they've seen in the news when it comes to fairness towards minorities.
I hate to bring the race into it, but I think it is about race. I think that there are two justice systems. There's one for people like you, people of non-color, and one for people like me, people of color.
At several points during the protest this evening, TPD officers conferred with the protests, actually guided them with the bicycles and blocked traffic. The tactic worked. Jen?
You know, Peter, I was watching your Twitter feed throughout the night. You had some pretty intense-looking pictures out there of the protest. Were there any arrests at any point tonight?
I'm happy to say not a single one. Not one person was arrested. It actually reminded me of the Republican National Convention a couple of summers ago where TPD just let things happen and guide it, and it all seemed to work out. It's a tactic that worked used before, and it worked tonight.
All right. Peter Bernard, live in downtown Tampa for us. Thank you. As we mentioned, this is happening across America tonight. In Miami, protesters stopped traffic on I-195, bearing flags and signs. They marched through stopped cars. You see them right there. And in New York City, protesters staged a die-in at Macy's Herald Square. Dozens of people laid down on the floor. There was a similar protest at the Apple store on Fifth Avenue. And in Boston, protesters staged another die-in in the middle of the street. You see them there. Dozens of people blocked the road. Crowds also marched through Boston streets, chanting Black Lives Matter.